Somebody's trying to make something better in the world of football, and that's the SEC. All right, and God bless the SEC.
Okay.
At least they're coming up with ideas. Because they're trying to come up with an earlier national signing day. All right, this has been a little bit of an issue as players coming and going, and a lot of people moving around, and players out there who are on their like fourth or fifth team, that are just trying to figure this whole thing out. Well, apparently Greg Sankey of the SEC, the commissioner, wants an earlier national signing day. And you know what? I mean, apparently there's some people on the show who are not fans of this early national signing day proposal by the SEC.
Well, let's just review the proposal. And for all those out there who are not college football fans, let me just kind of break it down to you. So what really came to a head this offseason was everything that the student athlete, the coaches, the universities, whether it's the athletic directors, presidents, whoever you're talking about, what they all have to endure once the month of December hits. So as of right now, you have an early signing period in the middle of the month of December. Well, during December, you also have bowl season. You have teams still playing for a national championship, which used to be a 4-team playoff. Now next year is going to be a 12-team playoff. You have teams earlier in the month are obviously playing for conference championships, right? The chance to go play for a national championship. And then meanwhile, you've got the transfer portal because that becomes open as well. So not only are you trying to shuffle your roster with high school kids, college kids, evaluating your roster, other kids who potentially could be coming to your roster, you're dealing with all of this, mind you, potential your own job security and your coaches on your staff as well. So if you look at the migration of college coaches, not just head coaches, but like coordinators, all this, who are migrating towards the NFL, it's because it's a mess. It is a mess. And what Greg Sankey and the SEC has tried to come up with as a solution to this is moving up the early signing period. So instead of the middle of December, they'd have it in the first week of December. It'd be right before the conference championship games. Which, look, I understand it's great to be able to put to bed on a Wednesday, right, when you've got your conference championship on a Friday or Saturday. Like, hey, we finally got this group of guys. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, LeVar, back when you and I were coming out of high school, you could enroll early. There was nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Right? Like you'd graduate your fall of your senior year in high school, and you go and enroll at Penn State for you, or would have been Notre Dame for me, and you could have moved on in that direction. And so I never really have understood the need for the early signing period outside of this. College coaches will tell you that they're worried about their players getting poached. And like during the course of bowl season and after the season, guys who are committed potentially getting flipped because in how they end up enrolling for that spring semester. So that was where the invention of the early signing period of the idea came about, because coaches were concerned about this. So now you get them signed up. They've got their letter of intent. Now they have to come to you, right? You could put it to bed. And so in essence, they want this date to be moved up in December, which I don't think solves anything. Like you're still trying to prepare for a conference championship, a chance to go play for a national championship. And so you might be able to put that portion of it to bed. You still have the transfer portal. You still have all these other things in the college football calendar. Like, to me, the elephant in the room is the transfer portal. And college football has 2 windows for it, which to me are completely unnecessary. Like right now, if there's a coaching change, the window opens up for you to go leave. And so if you're concerned about the ability for a player, moving on after their coach decides to, either if he's gotten fired or if he decides to go somewhere else, that opportunity is still presented to those players. That's not a problem for them. Now, it's a problem for that school trying to supplement the roster, because if it's outside the transfer portal window at that time of the year, talking about December into January, like that's a problem then once the window closes. You lose a bunch of guys, you can't supplement it until the next window or until that recruiting class comes in for high school. So that presents issues. But like my whole the solution to all of this is getting it down to one transfer portal window, to me, in May. Make it 30 days, put it in May, and you make these young people, whether they're a transfer, all right, from college somewhere else, or a high school student, commit to at least a year. And if you have a coaching change, right, they're going to have the opportunity to open it up to go somewhere else if they want. Otherwise, they can wait until going through the spring with a new coach at that school they're at to see how it goes. And I know there are going to be some coaches who are against it because they want to, have that kid for the spring. They want to see him develop and all that. So they want to have the opportunity to potentially, shape their roster or flip their roster. But that's the issue right now with tampering, with inducement, with all of that, because you have all these moving parts once December hits because of the early signing period, because of the transfer portal, because of universities having to make decisions on who their head coach is going to be, because they've got to be able to recruit and they got to be able to supplement their roster coming for that next year. I think it's the elephant in the room that we don't want to talk about changing, but it's the thing that needs changed the most.
There are there's a large segment of families that want to have that spring as well because they're so committed to the idea of the athlete themselves and their family wanting to play early. And I think that whole culture has created, what would present a problem and what's being discussed right now as well, because if you do have a coaching change, if you have one of those things that take place and you're trying to, go to a different school, or even if it's like you're early enrollee and the coach leaves and I guess do you have to hit the portal if you're an early enrollee? I guess at that point you got to use the portal before you even get started. Is that how that would work, Q?
Explain it one more time to me.
If I'm an early enrollee, like right now, my son is on track to be an early enrollee next year.
Okay.
If he goes to a school and that coach gets fired or leaves, does he have to use the transfer portal? Is he like now a portal kid, or is it still considered to be a high school type of deal where you could just change the school that you're going to and you go enroll in a different school? It would have to be a transfer portal, right?
Well, it'd have to be a portal. My guess is, though, it's highly unlikely for someone in your son's position. It would have to be a coach basically deciding to retire, right? By the time he would be an early enrollee, so he'd sign his letter of intent, that decision on who the head coach would be would already be made.
I mean, but think about how many changes took place between Alabama, Washington.
Again, that was a retiring.
Well,
that
Chip Kelly didn't retire. Chip Kelly rolled out.
He rolled out, but again, the portal opens up for those players.
That's why I'm asking. So the portal would open up for an early enrollee player?
Well, it opens up for any player on that roster.
Yeah. I just think it gets complicated for those who are looking to get ahead, because once something like that, which, I mean, what's the likelihood of that happening? I mean, there can't be too much.
It's very slim.
Yeah, there can't be too much frequency in that. But just for the sake of the conversation, what if you found yourself in a scenario where something that you used to get ahead has now been kind of disqualified because of the timing of it all? Like, I feel like if there is, and you can explain it to me because maybe I don't understand it well enough, but if there is a transfer portal, if the portal is made to be in May and only in May, that you lose a lot. Like, there's a lot of time from what, January? Is it January to May? Like, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're in school, so it's hopefully you're still working on trying to get your degree, which still should be a component of this. But
I mean,
I think the other thing is, again, in the scenario you're talking about, if you have a coaching change after that, let's just say after the current window closes, it still opens back up. If you got rid of the first window and you only had that window in May, you still would open it up for if there's a coaching change.
Yeah. I just think I think the problem that people will run into is that the reason why kids enroll early is because they know if they get a spring football,
that doesn't stop them from enrolling early. Yeah, none of what I'm saying stops them from enrolling early.
Right.
The early signing period and the transfer portal are two separate conversations.
Okay. All right. See, I'm trying to be clear on it myself.
So the early signing period, like if you have a son so the signing period itself, we're talking about for high school prospects.
Yep.
So it's in the middle of December. They're talking about moving it up, and like that's going to solve anything for some of the issues that we're seeing. I mean, it only puts to bed your high school recruiting class for the early signing period earlier in December. You still have a transfer portal window to worry about. You still have bowl games, national championship to worry about. You still have coaching staff changes to worry about. All that stuff still exists.
And that kid can still opt out if he wanted to, if there was like a coaching change, right? Because this is still kind of, if I'm understanding correctly, is presented in order to try to, like you said, lock the kid in. Like, this kid is going to this school. You signed the contract earlier.
The proposal isn't so much thinking about the kid because it doesn't change really anything for the kids. It's only moving it up the period of time for a week for the kid to sign. It's more for the coaches. So coaches don't have to try to juggle all of these things all at once. And that's the part of the issue with this is a lot of the things that have not changed or have stayed the same in college football for a long time have been in large part because the coaches haven't pushed for change. Or the change they've pushed for, they've kept some things the same and they've kept other things. For example, coach the quarterback. Why could anyone explain to me why we don't have that radio headsets in the helmet for not only the offense and defense in college football?
Because the poster boards that they draw are fun.
And the shower.
It's fun.
And the shower.
Yeah,
the
the
shower.
The truth is, a lot of the coaches get an advantage from stealing signs, and that's like a little secret. Like a lot of people don't want to address and talk about. There's coaches who have made their career on being able to steal signs, being able to in game be able to make adjustments and stuff off of that. And if you implement a coach the quarterback system, it takes away elements of that, right? It makes your job a lot harder. So there's a lot of things that have stayed the same for a reason because, everyone's going to advocate for, more advancement, more technology. It prepares the players for the NFL, all these other things. They're like, wait a second, it's going to hurt my job security. So I might say something publicly, but behind closed doors, I'm not voting for it that way. There's a lot of that goes on.
You guys ever find yourself, because I'll think about this, I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was in high school. Like I'll think about I'm just like it just feels like a world that could have gotten a lot of people, myself included, probably in trouble back then. Like there's a lot of pitfalls and things like that. Do you guys ever see the transfer portal crap and all the stuff going on in college football and go, I'm so glad none of this was around or a problem when I was back in high school going into college? Like
It seems much simpler. That's for certain. But technology provides a lot of opportunity, but it can also provide a lot of confusion and a lot of shortcomings and downfalls.
I mean,
pitfalls.
from like this, like all the transfer, because you guys have both said, like I know LeVar, you had said that you had thought about early on.
Yeah, I thought about transferring.
But like Brady went through coaching changes.
Yeah.
Like he went like the guy who recruited, like Ty Willingham recruited, and like I don't. It feels like there's just so much more factored in now than just commitment, loyalty to the school. That's where I'm going, and that's my dedication.
Well, I mean, it comes down to the money, though, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it now starts to come down to, when you're talking about the caliber of player that you're speaking on, it comes down to the dollars and cents of it. And we just heard Manziel talking about the bag man and all that stuff. Well, imagine what the bag man represents now in the NIL era.
Yeah, it's EA giving you $600 and a free game,
which is bogus, man. That's, I mean, I don't want to start jumping out there and saying, the E word, and not for excellent or for good. If y'all know that, I listen to our show, but more so geared towards exploitation of athletes. Good. Yeah, right. I love that. I think it's a great shirt. By
it's
the way.
Great.
I just think that where we're at now, the issues that are going to arise are going to be based off of which the whole social media aspect of it plays a major role in this. Is that the value of these young athletes and prospects are now being wrapped into a package deal of what are they as an influencer? What are their numbers like? What are they doing in social media? So now it went from being what is your conduct on social media to can I leverage this athlete to increase our bottom line and our reach and our exposure to our product and to our brand.
What's your 40 time? But before that, how many IG followers
there you go.
It's just the whole
there you go.
Bizarre, man.
So now the value proposition of athletes is changing, especially for the high-end athlete. And again, now there are opportunities for athletes who aren't even top-tier level athletes that may have become an influencer of sorts. You look at the Twins, the young ladies that are killing it and that have killed it in NIL.
Kavanaugh's?
They weren't even really good. They weren't that good of players.
Damn. It's Cavendur, I think.
Oh, is it?
In fact, I think it's one of them. I think they transferred or whatever it may have been. And
let me look that up.
Oh gosh.
Watch.
I mean,
it's Cavendur.
I mean, listen, I've tried to do in-show research here. You guys get your minds out of the gutter.
I could dig it. I mean, and for what it's worth, the interesting thing about that is you can be as superficial to say that some of these NIL phenomenons are purely based upon their looks.
Got it. Yeah, it is. I can confirm it is Cavender. Let me
Oh,
keep,
my God.
take a further look here.
And the other thing is, like, well, first off, you can confirm, like, you look at some social media followings, LeVar, it doesn't have to be specific to NIL. It's social media. It's like, oh, why does this person have so many followers? Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it ain't because they can do a backflip really well. It's that they look really good doing a backflip. And it's crazy because we live in a time, in a day and age where there are true sensitivities towards, chauvinistic mentality or, super superficial types of approaches.
Yuck.
But yet and still, yeah, right, Jonas. Yet and still, that's now a driver. That's a driver of what's taking place. So it's also now a level of chasing celebrity. And this is crazy to think. We chased celebrity or we chased national titles when we were playing because you knew that it led to having a better opportunity to making it to the league. These guys are doing it because they have an opportunity to grow their brands in a way where they can monetize it and monetize it like nicely, handsomely, get monetized and compensated for building a brand. And it kind of takes away, it shifts the focus of being just a student athlete, which probably that's a term that might die on the vine, but you've now you've moved the goalposts of what it represents to go to school and be an athlete and a student at a school because of technology, to your point of what about social media now as it applies to college athletics.